Okay, after we have introduced the concept of consumer surplus and producer surplus, what we will do next is we will take this integral, this formula, and we will apply it. Again, it will be the same for the other formula, and we apply it. You can notice something in the formula. First of all, the demand will be given to you in the question. You need to find the equilibrium point, which is the number of a quantity and the price, because we need to put them in the formula. So the first step, we need to find Q0, P0. We have the demand from the question, and then we find this integral. Same thing for the producer surplus. Let's see this in one of the examples, standard example. Let's start with example number 3. So in example number 3, the first step, we find the equilibrium point. And that's the important point that we have here. What is the equilibrium point? It is where the demand, the function in red, which is the P in red, should equal the function in green, which is the supply. Sometimes we just say demand equal to supply. Now, what is the function in red? It is 22 minus 0.8 Q. This should equal whatever written in green, which is 6 plus 1.2 Q. Next step, I will take this one to the other side. It will go with plus sign. I'll take the 6 to the other side. So if I do it step by step, because it's the first time we do it here, what we will have 22 minus 6 equal, because the 6 will go to the left with a minus, equal 1.2 Q plus 0.8 Q. Of course, this can be simplified. 22 negative 6, this will give us only 16 here, equal 1.2 plus 0.8, this is 2Q. So the answer, we divide everything by 2, the answer is 8. So Q0 equal to 8. Now, if Q0 is equal to 8, we need to find B0. How do we find B0? Either I substitute here 8 or I substitute here 8. So remember, B0, I will substitute in the demand. So it will be 1.2, sorry, for the demand, it's here. It will be 0.8, sorry, this 1.8 times 6. Why this is times 6? Because this is Q naught. And I find the answer will be in dollars. If you find the answer correctly, it will be just $15.60. So the equilibrium point is Q naught, P naught equal to 8 units, and the price should be 15.6. Now, we will start with finding the consumer surplus. So number 2, or step number 2, consumer surplus equal to, it should be equal integral from 0 to Q0, and then you write the demand here minus B0 dQ. And that's what we should get here. So it will be from 0 to 8. What was the demand function? The demand function was 22.8 Q minus this number, we find it down here, which is 15.6 dQ. This can be a little bit simplified, so we can simplify this a little bit here. So it will be just 6.4 minus 0.8 Q dQ. because remember you have 22 minus 15.6, it's give me 6.4. Now this is an integral where we know how to do it. So we just need to do the integration, and the integration here is straightforward. 6.4, it would be just become 6.4q negative. The q will become q squared divided by 2. If you divide 0.8 by 2, you get 0.4. And now, all what you need to do is to substitute instead of a q8 and find the answer in the calculator. And then substitute instead of a q0, which would be just 0. So the final answer will be just this one. In dollars, it will be $25.6. And that is the consumer surplus. So again, once we set up the integral correctly, the answer will follow automatically with the question. For the producer surplus, which is PS, equal the integral from 0 to Q0. Remember, it will be the price minus the supply function. So the supply function will come next. So it will be integral from 0 to 8. Remember, the price of the equilibrium is 15.6 minus, and now you have to write the supply as it was given to you, which was 6 plus 1.2q. You write it down exactly as is. Now, next step, take the negative inside. So we would get 0 to 8, 15.6 minus 6 minus 1.2q dq. Now we can, of course, simplify this one here to get 9.6 minus 1.2q dq. And finally, we do the final integration from the beginning to the end. So the integration would be 9.6q minus, now we have q squared divided by 2, this will be just 0.6. And finally, we substitute instead of a q8. We find the answer using the calculator. We substitute instead of a q0, we find the answer. So the final answer is 38.4. And that is the producer surplus. So we find two integration. One is the producer surplus, where we use the supply function because it's from the producer point of view. And we found the consumer surplus, where we use the demand function because it's the point of view of the consumer. Before that, we need to find the equilibrium point because we need to substitute it in the integral. And we find how much the consumer have like an extra money and how much the producer will have kind of an extra money up here. Example number 4, again, is the same procedure. We need to find the consumer and consumer surplus at the market equilibrium. So the first step, we need to find the market equilibrium. So find the market equilibrium. And what is the market equilibrium? It is where we have a demand the same as the supply. That's the market equilibrium. So we make them equal. It's like I'm finding the intersection point between the function in green and the function in red. So the function in red is 2200 minus q squared. The function in green is 400 plus q squared. And I make equal between them. What happened next is you can move q squared to the other side. You move 2200 to the other side. I can do it in many ways. I'll just do it in the usual way. So what we will have a q squared plus q squared plus 400 minus 2200. equal to 0. So basically what I did, I moved the red numbers to the left. I changed the sign. It was negative, it became positive. It was big positive, it becomes negative. That's basically what I did. So what's next is we will get 2q squared minus 1800 equal to 0. That's basically what we are going to get. And for that, we can solve it by using mod 5.3, using the calculator. If we do that, we will get two answers. The first one is 30, which is fine. Or, I'm sorry, it's 30. Or Q0 will be negative 30, and that is directly rejected because we don't have a price with a negative sign. This is disregarded. Remember, it's a price and a quantity. We cannot accept that. So the only answer we will accept is Q0 equal to 30. Next, we find the price, P0. So which one we use to find the price here? You can use any one. I will use the demand function. Remember, the demand function, you have to write 30 here, which is Q0. And you will just find the answer. If you do it, you will get $1,300. And that's all what you are going to get. Okay, so we find the equilibrium point. So we just write it as a point. So we write it as Q0 P0 equal to 30, 1,300. We get those 2 points here. What we need to do next is we need to find the consumer surplus, which, remember, it is integral from 0 to Q0. And then we start with the demand minus the equilibrium price, which is P0 dQ. Which is from 0. Now, what is the demand? The demand is 2,200 minus Q squared minus the price, which is 1,300 dQ. Of course, if we simplify this one a little bit, this would be from 0 to 30. It will be just 900 minus Q squared dQ. And now we find the integral, which is basically the integral of 900. It will be 900q minus q squared over 2. And this we need to substitute 0 and 30. And now if we substitute 30 and then we substitute 0 and we subtract them, the answer will be just $18,000. And that's the consumer surplus. If we go to find the producer surplus, PS, we need to do the same thing. We start from 0 to Q0, take the price minus the supply function, dQ. And now we ask ourselves, what will be the price? It was 1,300 minus the supply, whatever the supply is, and the supply was given in the question as 400 plus Q squared. Of course, what we do next, take the negative inside. So we would get 0 to 30, 1300 minus 400 minus Q squared dq. And if we simplify this a little bit, 1300 minus 400, let's just give you 900. So we get just 900 minus Q squared dq. And if we do the integration from 0 to 30, this would be 900q minus q squared over 2. And that's it. If we find out how much the surplus, we will find it the perfect number here, which is 1800. Now you can notice something very weird happened. We get the same answers, which means from the consumer and the producer, both of them, they would agree upon the same equilibrium point and they will get the same surplus. So it's a win-win, equally likely for both. Now let's look at this question, which is a question where it's a kind of different in terms of many things. First of all, you notice there is no supply function. So we don't need the supply function. That's okay. Because he already wants only the consumer surplus. Now, in order to find the consumer surplus, you need the equilibrium point. I have the price, P0. I need to find the Q0. So the first step, we find the equilibrium point. Of course, I don't need to have two functions, demand equals supply, because I don't have the supply. But we know the price of the equilibrium. The price for the equilibrium point is P0 equal 84. So next, you need to find Q0, and Q0 is just take the demand function, one of the functions, the one giving to you, and you substitute 84. And we find how many units. Now, if we do that correctly, the answer will be 40. So we find the number of units, and that's it. So we find Q0, P0 equal 40,84. Now, step number 2, we need to find the demand as a price. So I need price to be here equal something in terms of Q. Remember, this is the way we used to have it. So here, I need to do something in order to switch between P and Q. So the next step, and let me write it down for you here, so you don't forget it. Next, we will find the demand function in terms of the price, P. What do we mean in terms of P? We start with the Q equal 10 square root 100 minus P. What we need to do is we need to find P alone. That's the idea. So the first easy step, we can, for example, divide by 10. So we get Q over 10 equal the square root. We can then square both sides. We get 100 minus P, because if you square the square root, you get cancelled. Now, all what you need to do, take P to the left, take whatever here to the right. So we will end up with P equal 100 minus Q squared divided by 100. And that's my demand function. Because Q squared, 10 squared is 100. If you move it to the other side, it will become with a negative sign. And now, after we find the P, we can find the consumer surplus. So what is the consumer surplus? What's the formula for consumer surplus? It is just the integral from 0 to 40. And then we have demand minus the price. DQ. So from 0 to 40. What is the demand? The demand is 100 minus Q square over 100 minus what is B0? B0 is just 84 DQ. Now, if we simplify this one a little bit, what we will get 16 minus Q square over 100 DQ. And finally, we just need to write down the following. The integral of 16 is 16q. The integral of q square, it is q power 3, and we divide by 3, and there is 100, so it will be 300 here. Now, of course, we can substitute using the calculator. The final answer, if we substitute 40, it would be $426.67. And that's how we find the consumer surplus. So in this question, we did two things. The first one, we don't have supply, so I don't have the same idea we did before. Second thing, I switch between Q and B. I find P alone, and I find the equilibrium point. That's example number 5. Example number 6, which is very important example we have here. So in example number 6, let's see the question. It says a monopoly has a total cost, and we have the cost function. And we have the demand function. Okay, demand function, cost function, it might remind us of something going on. So we have the demand. It says find the consumer surplus. Okay, I have the demand. I can find the consumer surplus, but I need the equilibrium point. But it doesn't say find it exactly at the equilibrium point. We need to find it where the monopoly has maximum profit. So you need to find the profit first, then you need to find the maximum profit, and then you need to find the surplus. So let me write you what you need to do here. We need to first find the profit, which is something very easy. Profit is the revenue minus cost. We have the cost, we have the demand, we can find the revenue. Second, find the maximum profit. How do we find the maximum profit? Use derivative. Remember, if you want to find maximum and minimum, we use the derivative. And then, of course, find consumer surplus. So we have 3 steps that we need to do. So let's do them one by one. First of all, what is the profit? Let's say profit is f of x. Profit is total revenue minus total cost. Now, what is the total cost? It's giving to you in the question. I think it was given in blue. So it was 1,120x plus 6x squared. Now, what is the revenue? It is the number of units, which is x, times the price. So what is the price? What was the price giving to me in the question? It was 360 plus or minus 3x minus 2x squared. And all what we need to do is just take x inside. So we get 360x minus 3x squared minus 2x cubed minus 10,000 minus 100x minus 6x squared. And that's the function. So the function will be just 240x, if we just simplify it, minus 9x squared minus 2x cubed. Of course, and we have 1,000 here. That's the profit function. How we find the maximum? What you need to do is you need to find the critical number. So you find the derivative and make it equal to 0. What is the derivative? 240 minus 18x minus 6x squared equal to 0. We will get, if we solve it using mod 5 two answers. One of them is 5. The other one is negative 8, which is rejected. We don't have a quantity equal negative 8. So the only answer is x equal to 5. Now, final step, check if x equal to 5 gives maximum. I don't know if it is maximum or minimum. How do we check if it is give maximum or minimum? We find the second derivative test. So we use the second derivative test. What is the second derivative test? The second derivative test is we need to find the second derivative, which is, and if we do it, it will be just negative 18, negative 12x. And then we substitute our critical number, which is 5, there. Now, if we substitute 5, it will be just 78, which is less than 0. So this means I have a maximum. So x equal to 5 is the maximum. So maximum profit is when x equal to 5 and the price is, we just substitute in the price function. So P0 equal 360 minus 3x minus 2x squared. We just need to substitute 5. And if we do that, the answer will be 295. Which means Q0, P0, if we are back to our usual notation, those are the two numbers you need to use in your calculation. And now we just have to find the consumer surplus to finalize this question. So consumer surplus is the integral from 0 to Q naught demand minus this point. Which will be just integral from 0 to 5. What was the demand function? It was a 360 minus 3x minus 2x squared minus 295 dq. All what we need to do is we need to find this integral. We can of course do it directly as the integral itself, and then we substitute. So 360, it will become 360q. Of course, sorry, there should be q here or x, it doesn't matter. I'll just keep it x. And this one here, I'll keep it x. So this would be just x. And here we'll have 3x squared over 2 minus 2x cubed over 3. That's what we will get here. Minus 295x. All what you need to do is substitute 5, substitute 0, and the answer that you will get is 240.1 as the final answer. That's for those